Heavy Cardboard presents.
Heavy Cardboard, episode 26, Uwe Rosenberg. Coming to you from Castle Black, just outside Denver, Colorado. Welcome to Heavy Cardboard, where we talk medium-heavy strategy board games, war games, 18xx, and whatever else comes to mind. We're your hosts.
I'm Tony.
I'm Edward. So,
Yeah. Hey, 26th episode. We have 1 year under our belt.
yeah, this is officially our 1 year
Congratulations,
episode,
man.
so rock on. That's, I guess I expected us to be here, but I didn't know that we would make it here.
Yeah.
I didn't know if people would like what we do, but apparently they do. So thanks, guys.
So far, so good. Let us know how to improve our show, please. And you can do so by contacting us.
Yeah, heavycardboard.com is our website. At heavycardboard on Twitter, where we are uber active, for better or for worse. Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. Our email, contact at heavycardboard.com. We love getting emails, and, you know, whether it's telling us, hey, you guys are doing a mediocre job, a great job,
Right.
whatever, or maybe something that you're excited, new game that you just found out about or acquired, whatever. We want to hear about it.
We write back, too.
Yeah, we try and be good about that. So appreciate it, and also our YouTube page, which is Heavy Cardboard Vids. And if you guys would continue to leave us reviews as well as ratings on iTunes, it's very much appreciated. Very much.
Before we get started, just want to remind everybody about our wonderful sponsor, Game Surplus. Check them out on their website, www.gamesurplus.com. Velma and Amos are great folks. They have a lot of terrific games in their inventory. Imports, hard to find things as well.
Boy, do they, because they actually came through for my buddy, my other buddy, who got me one of my Grail games.
Yeah.
Through Game Surplus, so that was very cool. So yeah, big
Funny
fans.
story associated with that. Maybe we'll have to say it one time, huh?
Yeah, just can't say enough good things. Customer service wise, they will go the extra mile. Their packaging is fantastic. Check them out, gamesurplus.com.
So, I've finally earned my gray hairs.
Yeah, you're old. Officially, as of Saturday, you're old. And why is that?
I became a grandfather for the first time.
Right.
So
Congratulations,
thank you
man.
very much. Congratulations to Chris and Stacy, my
Yes.
son and his wife.
Yep.
And welcome, Philip. We'll get him started on Indonesia soon.
Yeah, give him a month, and then we'll ease him into it from there. But no, yeah, congrats to the family. Glad everyone's safe and healthy, and 10 fingers, 10 toes, and that
Indeed.
whole deal. So
Indeed.
now the only rule is you're not allowed to let the kid get in the way too much of our gaming. Too much.
Yeah. Give it a whirl.
Right. So the game group that we started, we've had 2 meetings.
We've had the first and second Heavy Cardboard Game Days.
Yeah, under our belt. Both were 18xx related.
Yes, they were.
That should be a hint for our listeners what's coming down the pike.
But you never know, because we played 46 in one and 30 in the other.
Yep.
So
yeah, and
this Saturday,
yep.
we're going to have another Heavy Cardboard Game Day. Well, every Saturday. And but this one's going to be, there's a iconic local FLGS that's closing its doors, and they have a long, like decades-long tradition of playing 18xx. So
On
we're gonna,
Saturdays.
On Saturdays. And
Right.
we're going to go down there this Saturday and play some 18xx with those guys. And that's going to be a different game, 18 Ardennes.
Right.
So we are going to talk some 18xx, but who knows what it'll be yet.
Yep. So on that note, we had a fan of the show, listener, David, who came to our first game day.
Yeah, he lives south of town in the Black Forest, and sounds like he might come more often.
Yeah, he was going to make it this last time, but couldn't for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And so, yeah, if you're ever in town, please hit us up. We'd love to hook up a game day, whether it's on a normal game day for us or not.
He was a good guy. That was his first 18xx experience. He dove into 1846, and he brought some buffalo sausage.
He's always welcome to our group
I
if
guess
he
they
brings
make
that.
it where he works, so it was
Right.
delicious.
Yeah, it was awesome. And speaking of David's,
We met another David.
right? I forget his last name, or I don't want to butcher it, I should say. He's Canadian.
It's Canadian Dave.
Yeah, Canadian Dave. And he was down for a convention, and he hit us up. He emailed us, hey, guys, I'm going to be in town. Would you guys like to get together and play something? Heck yeah. So we busted out a game of Kraftwagen.
Kraftwagen, yes.
And had a blast.
He brought us a copy of Xanadu.
Not only that, but the important stuff.
True.
He brought down a big jug of maple syrup. Well done. Thank you. Yes. And he brought down some cool Canadian chocolate that none of which I've talked about. Or I'm familiar with, I should say.
And some brewskis from a little micro in Calgary.
Right. Yeah. So that was cool. So we welcome listeners to come by, especially when they bring us gifts.
Indeed.
So let's see what else. I know you're not going to care about this, but I do, and so maybe our listeners.
Just excuse myself while you.
So one of my favorite radio show, in fact, my favorite radio show, and the reason I got into listening to podcasts was an ESPN podcast called SVP and Rosillo. And this coming Friday, or I guess since this is releasing Thursday, tomorrow is their last episode ever. And I've been listening to SVP for 6 years, I think, since the beginning, just about. And so Friday's the last show, so I'm pretty bummed. And they're not their normal ESPN blowhards. They're actually dudes you would like to kind of hang out with type thing.
All right.
And yeah, so pretty bummed about that. But
did they cover one or two sports in particular?
Yeah, mostly football and basketball. Okay. But they also hit on everything else. Okay. I think there was even some mention of fencing once.
Wow.
No, it not in a serious way, but nonetheless, it's bittersweet because it's been a good run, but nothing can go on forever unless you're Tom Vassell. So,
well, my bummer is we lost Christopher Lee.
Yep.
I know. The Hammer films when I was growing up were rocking awesome with him as Dracula.
So what are those? Like super condensed
60s
version here.
English horror classics. Hammer was the producer.
Okay, gotcha. I'll be honest, that's not me. So
gotcha. So growing up, I love horror movies, and those were influential and scary. To a kid.
Sure, of course, right. Yeah, so. For me, it was The Shining was terrifying at 5 years old.
Gotcha.
Why they let me watch that at 5 years old, I don't know.
Yeah, explains a lot. Well, let's see. In games that we've acquired, I unacquired one. I sold my copy of Versendas Volk to somebody, and maybe in the process recruited another listener. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't know your guys were in a podcast. So he gave it a listen. He was he actually watched the Puerto Rico episode as we were communicating.
Nice. So there are people actually watching the videos. Yes. That's encouraging. All right, cool.
My copy of Raw came that I got in an auction on BGG,
which apparently you spent too much, according to Todd Cock.
Well, so thanks for letting me know that
after the
post. Todd. Modern art. That's all I have to say. I love Raw. It's a game that was formative for me in my early gaming days, and I love auctions and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And I gave away my physical copy a few years ago. Like a couple years ago when the iPad version came out. Because I'm like, I'm never going to play the physical copy again.
Oops.
Duh.
So I played the dice game with you, which that was was really not good.
Worlds apart.
I'm interested in playing the original because we both love auctions, and I'm curious to see because apparently this is supposed to be one of the end-all be-alls when it comes to auction games.
I wouldn't say that, and I love auctions, but it does have an opportunity for some less than savory maneuvers, or at least your opponents will think they're less than savory in terms of when you bid and stuff like that. So,
all right.
And from a listener, I was able to acquire a copy of The Great Zimbabwe from Splatter Spellin.
It's your first splatter, isn't it?
I have to think about that. Is it?
I think it is. I think it is. Because you don't own Greed Inc., you don't own Bus.
Gonna get Indonesia.
And Indonesia or Roads and Boats.
And I want Roads and Boats too, but yeah. So anyway.
All in due time.
I guess, so hunting, roads and boats? No. What about you, man?
I mentioned in the last episode that this past week was my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And there were 3 things that I got that I wanted to mention, only one of which is really board gaming related. Well,
Okay.
no, I guess a couple of them are.
Okay.
But first and foremost, Amanda, I don't want to say gave me permission, but her gift to me was saying, here's a credit card, go build your own computer.
Cool.
Trick it out, have a nice gaming rig, plus if I ever do any of the video editing, et cetera, et cetera. But with news of Fallout 4 yesterday, perfect timing. So that's good. My good buddy, Jody, up in Canada, is my best friend who he and I play poker together back in the day, et cetera, and we've stayed close. He was the one who got me my Grail game. He got me a copy of Turf Master, which ironically I had ordered already from Velma.
Yeah.
And she said within an hour, Jody actually had contacted her and said, hey, do you have any copies left? I want to get it for Edward.
She thought that was funny.
Oh, I think it's funny. She told us after the fact, and so she was like, yeah, you don't need to order it. So that's awesome. Played it a couple times. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. It's not only a Grail game like, oh, it's cool to have. Really, really fun game.
Cool.
Last but not least, my other good buddy, made me something that I think is pretty special. It's a little big, so I didn't want to break it out for the camera here, but it's a collage, a framed and matted custom collage of the entire first year of Heavy Cardboard. It has, like the box covers of every episode,
Right.
plus some others that weren't, game centric or whatever, and couldn't be happier. That stuff means a lot to me. I mean,
thanks.
don't get me wrong, games are great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The wife getting me a computer and let me build that. But no, that took thought, that took time, all that. So I wanted to say thanks a lot.
Your birthday and our 1-year anniversary kind of coincided there, so good opportunity
Rock
to
on.
maybe start a tradition. Every year we have to do this.
I hope I have to get a bigger office after a while. So
That'd be
rock
cool.
on.
That'd be
Cool.
cool.
Thanks a lot.
So what are you hunting?
I hope to be hunting 18 Ardennes after we play it.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to it, and the way Paul Chad explained it, I can't imagine I'm not going to like
Yeah.
it and want it.
I've been reading the rules and I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks great. And here's kind of an interesting one. I've mentioned before on the show that I have a fairly popular geek list on BGG of what we're anticipating, or at least looking forward to find out more about throughout the year. Well, one of those games, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'll do my best, but try it again. How Spec Connect, I think it's the number 3 in the Cole trilogy by Thomas Spitzer.
Yeah.
And the first one being Rochefort, the second one Cole and Colony, and the third one was originally supposed to be done by Spielworks as well. The first 2 were, but for whatever reason, and I don't want to go into it, don't know all the details, it's not happening. So Quind Games, Quind, Quind, they decided to publish it.
Awesome.
Well, Kickstarter for Carson City just started today. It's all nice, edition, has 2 of the expansions, whatever, right?
Killer box.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. It looks great. But the thing I thought was really weird is you had to scroll down and down and down, and then towards the bottom of the page, there's and you can add these other 2 games, one of which is a new version of Xanadu, which is the game that Dave brought down, and the other is How Spec Connect. And there's no mention of it in the Kickstarter except, you can add this game. And I was like, it's almost like a throwaway. And I was like,
they're probably not expecting to sell thousands of them.
But it just felt, I don't know, like a tack on. Like, hey, we got these. Let's put that out there too. So it's kind of a bummer to me because I wanted the third in the series there. But the way it's being presented, I'm like, is it bad? Is it, I felt weird. It just gave off a weird vibe because of the way it was done on the Kickstarter.
That's just not going to sell as many copies, and Queen's pretty big company.
But at least say something on it about it.
So what? Are you not going to order it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's €40, so it's not cheap. But yeah, we'll see.
That's $45.
Yeah,
that is cheap.
Well, see, I'm still used to thinking the euros 2 to 1. But anyway, so that's it. It's 18 Ardennes and maybe How Spec Connect.
Cool.
So how about you?
Hopefully we'll just order 18 Orden together.
Sure. Right.
That'd be cool. So I'm not really looking for anything right now. There's a couple of games I'd like to play. I'd still like to play Elysium and Argent, but
same.
Not willing to maybe plop it down, to do so. So what have we been playing? We've played a few games together.
Sure.
This past Saturday we played 1830. Mm-hmm. That was an interesting round.
I can honestly say it's not going to be one of my favorite games. Yeah. I'd played it once before, and it just felt a little...
Felt like we were terrible.
Yeah, well, no arguments. Yeah, no arguments there. But it felt a little weird in that just there were choke points, and I'm sure that's part of the appeal of the game. But it has such a different feel as far as the track lane aspect than 18 Scandinavia, 18 Mexico, even though 18 Mexico is a 1830 clone.
Sure.
I just enjoy 18 Mexico way more. But so, we're going to be playing it more here in the upcoming weeks and whatever. I don't mind the restrictiveness that we saw. Just, it's part of the screwage factor, I think. Well, that and play better, I guess.
So, right. And then that'll make us play better.
Sure.
Right? We played Kraftwagen with David even recently.
Played it a couple times.
So that's been pretty cool. I played Orléans several times with the wooden bits. Very, very cool.
Which, that looks gorgeous, man. You did a really good job tricking that out.
Irish Gauge. You got your first play of that in.
Fantastic.
It isn't it? It is.
I mentioned in the guild, I posted a thread in there saying, okay, now that I've played Irish Gauge, we've played a number of Winsome games. I'd say 4 or 5, which is a small number, but nonetheless, it's the best one that we've played. And I asked, is this as good as it gets as far as... Because I wouldn't be disappointed if that's the pinnacle.
Sure.
And a few people, actually, a lot of people chimed in on other really, really good Winsome. And it gave us a whole lot of games to go research. So if you're interested, go check out the guild, Heavy Cardboard Guild. And it's the Winsome game thread. And we have some people that would know the answer to that question, kind of in the guild. And so, that was really cool. Irish Gauge was really, really good.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Northern Pacific, played more of that. I mean,
another Winsome, which
goes quickly. How can you not play it?
Less than 5 minutes.
No.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10-minute game.
Depends.
Thinky filler. But
interesting.
I would put SNCF ahead of it, though. Far and away.
Then after playing 1846 a couple weekends ago, we... busted out the wife and I and Tony KR some castles of Mad King Ludwig to
kind of ease off the high, right?
Right. So that's really about it. I've been awfully busy lately. So what about you?
On top of the games that we played together that you mentioned, got another play of Brewcrafters in.
Nice.
Which I really enjoy that game.
Fun stuff.
It does run a little long, I feel like.
It does.
But that's really my only gripe about the game.
Yeah. I don't think it's got the legs of Agricola and stuff like that, but it's a good
I
game.
agree.
Good
But
game.
definitely happy to own it. Mm-hmm. Like you said, 1846, 1830 Irish Gauge. The two that you weren't didn't play in were I played Turfmaster now a couple times.
Right.
Played it 5-player and played it 4-player. It plays up to 8, and I do think that while it will be probably 2.5 hours with 8,
really,
it would be fantastic with 8. Everybody,
I want to play
with everybody having their own horse. It's a cool. You are the jockey. You're not betting on horses. You're running the race, and you have a deck of cards. Everybody has the same deck. You draw 10 of the basically a third of the deck. Mm-hmm. You alternate playing cards with rolling dice. The cool thing about the rolling dice aspect, because I thought, a whole lot of random.
7, move your horse 7.
Although it is kind of like that, but here's the thing. The cool thing about it is one player at the table rolls their dice, and then let's say they roll a 6 and a 2. They decide either everybody's going to move 8, so the 2 dice combined, or individual. So the actual jockey would then decide if he's running 6 or 2.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot more, tactics involved in this racing than just roll and move or play a card and move. There is a lot of there's a lot more there than I thought there would be. And the minis are pewter.
Yeah, they look cool.
They're gorgeous, and just it's a lot of fun, man.
Wow.
Really, really cool game. So thanks again to Jody for that. I really appreciate it, bro.
Right on.
And yeah, it was fun. And the other one, which I'm going to talk about more here in a little bit, is I've gotten now 2 plays of Maria
Recently.
One introductory, just the beginner game, and then the expert or the full game.
Right on. Cool.
Yep. All right, Tony, let's roll into some Kraftwagen.
Kraftwagen. Sounds good. First of all, thank you to Uli for sending us a review copy of Kraftwagen. Very much appreciated, sir. We've both been looking very much forward to playing this game.
We have.
Personally, I'm a fan of Matthias Kramer, and particularly Glenmore, Lancaster, and he's 1/3 of the design team of Rococo.
I, on the other hand, really strongly dislike Glenmore.
Sure.
I enjoy Rococo a lot, and I enjoy Lancaster.
Right.
He's hit or miss for me. So I was very interested to get this played.
Well, particularly because the main mechanic of Kraftwagen is that rondelle,
Similar.
action rondelle,
Right.
that from Glenmore. So I was really interested in seeing how you would react to such a thing. Plus, it looked like that mechanic with a little more meat around it too. So let's talk about the game then. It's a 2015 publication. Matthias Kramer, as we mentioned, is the author. It's published by Blackfire out of Germany, Blackfire Entertainment. I guess Uli was the developer of the game.
Yes, he was.
Even though we got it.
And for those that don't know, Uli is Spielworks.
He is Spielberg.
So, yeah.
Uli Spielworks, I believe is his actual name. It's a 2 to 4 player game, and it's going to take 45 to 75 minutes, just depending on if you got 2, 3, or 4 players in the game. And what's going on in the game is you're building cars. Kraftwagen is the German word for car. So you're building cars at the outset of the automotive industry in Europe, in Germany, in like the 1920s and stuff like that. As mentioned, the main mechanic is that one from Glenmore with the action rondelle. But that is the only similarity between Glenmore and Kraftwagen. It ends there. So this rondelle, it is the place where players will select an action tile, because it's populated with action tiles that are going to give you 1, 2, or 3 actions. And when you're done, you move your piece to that tile, you take your action or actions, and you put the tile at the end of the line. So it's available for someone else to select. And like Glenmore, the trick is the further up the rondelle you move, I want to move up, say, 5 spaces and take that tile. Now you've left 5 spaces between you and the other players, so they could get the other players could get some additional turns before you go again, because the turn order isn't set. It's set by whoever's last in that rondelle. So if I'm last, it is my turn. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump and take some tiles and take some actions. So obviously, you're always being tempted to jump ahead and grab that. Oh man, I really need to do that and that. But it's like 6 spaces ahead, and I might not get another turn.
Or 10. Right. Right.
Don't go to the end of the line, right?
Right.
When you do the actions, you're using them for several things. You're increasing your research points in both automotive and or engines to allow yourself the ability to produce ever more sophisticated automobile bodies and engines. You're trying to hire some engineers that can help you navigate the automotive world by giving you some special powers, rule breakers, and special power things.
And they are the real engineers from history.
Those are real German automotive engineers there.
Right.
You are racing a Grand Prix car at a Grand Prix track, because one of the things you're doing is constructing a Grand Prix car. You're also sending the cars that you make to the marketplace for sale. In league with that, all the players are drafting buyers to go to the market and buy said cars from it. And as you're accomplishing the actions and making your way through the game, you're also earning some special victory point tiles for being like the first or the second player to achieve something. The first player to do 2 laps around the racetrack, for example, gets 7
or
point
to
tile.
have a certain number
5 body.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. So those buyers, though, they come in 4 different kinds of buyers. There are buyers that like the cheapest car in the marketplace. That's what they're going to buy.
I like to think of it as the most economical car.
Indeed, sir. That definitely sounds better.
Right.
There are buyers that want to buy the car that has the best engine. Buyers that want to buy the car that has the best body. And who wouldn't?
Hello.
And there's buyers that want to buy the car with the most prestige associated with it by you. Because when you send that kind of a car to the market, you can put extra workers. I imagine they're like polishing the car
And,
or
Vanna. Yeah, right, exactly.
that kind of stuff. And so what's cool about the way that market works is in a 4-player game, for example, there could be 6 cars in the marketplace. No more. There could be fewer. There's only going to be 4 buyers.
At most.
At most. And there could be one of each of the different kinds of buyers, or depending on how the players drafted them, there could be like 2 of the buyers that want the cheap cars, and 1 that wants the body, and 1 that wants the prestige, and nobody that cares about the engine. And here I am building great engine cars, right? And so when you place your car into the marketplace, you're going to put a price on it. And that price, not only do you have to pay attention to what the other players have priced their cars at, but what the buyers are currently in the market at the end of the turn. And there's really a good opportunity for competition amongst the players in getting things into the marketplace and undercutting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in undercutting, because of the fact that nobody can choose the same price. I mean, if you grab the 6,
Right.
there's no 6
They're
left.
tokens.
Right, and so it's either higher or lower
Right.
than that.
Right.
And it definitely is a cool forced mechanic of, being aware of what the market's going to dictate.
Yeah. You lay a 4 engine in there, that engine buyer is going to get that, and you priced it at $10. I might lay a 4 engine in there at $9, and now you got to scramble, because with 4 buyers and 6 cars potentially, somebody's getting hurt.
Yep.
Obviously the rondelle is a very, very cool mechanic. Did you like the rondelle in this game
I
better
absolutely.
than
Oh,
Glenmore?
totally. I enjoyed the game more than Glenmore. Low bar. Again, I know it's me on Glenmore.
Yeah.
I get that. But no. There's so much about this game that I liked. I like the artwork. I like the muted colors, but I like that. I like that art style. That suits me.
The board is a little plain, but it looks
It
good.
is,
It
but
looks good.
I like the color choices made. The rondelle mechanic is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It is different though, or I should say that
It is different. It's the same mechanic, but the tiles are obviously different because
you're not taking
in Glenmore,
the tile.
right? You take it off.
There you go.
And here's something I found interesting was in Glenmore, you're kind of incentivized to balance your jumping ahead with your going slow because you don't want to have the biggest village.
Right, because you get penalized if
Right.
you're the least efficient.
That pressure isn't in Kraftwagen.
Do you think that's a better or worse?
I don't know. I've been thinking about it, and I can't think that it is either better or worse because it does allow me the opportunity to focus more on what I'm doing and maybe go a little slower and let me take some extra turns, if you will. So
Okay.
I'm really undecided. What do you think?
Again, going from I don't like the game, and
Right.
I think...
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah, I do. And I haven't, for the last, honestly, for longer than the podcast has been around, I haven't been able to put my finger on what it is I don't like about Glenmore.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind whiskey, so it's not the theme. But I do think that might be one of the things, even though I like a tighter, more constricted game, and to fly in the face of 1830. But I don't like that aspect of Glenmore. So no, I like the openness. Like,
Sure.
And as an example, if everybody moves and leaves you 2 or 3 spots available and you're in last, you can peg them off 1, 2, 3. Hey,
No harm done.
right. And everyone should be penalized for allowing me to, take those actions or
Absolutely.
not to be able to be penalized in that they didn't look ahead enough.
Well, I mean, I guess the pressure there is not that they didn't look ahead, maybe, but like, I need to get that before it goes over here.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to concede these 2 possibilities to you. Maybe that's the pressure. But let me ask you this: when you're doing research, you have a choice of 2 cards that are face up.
Right.
And when you pick one, the other gets flushed, and 2 new ones come out for whomever might be the next player.
Right.
What do you think of that?
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about the randomness aspect,
Yeah.
like whether or not that I have... Nah.
Yeah,
I
like that.
I have no problem. You have choice. You
do?
have to. I would prefer, just this is me having 2 plays of it under my belt, but I would prefer that you could also, if you don't like either of the 2 that are there, take the top one off the deck, on top of that.
That'd be interesting.
I don't see any downside to that.
A couple times it happened that same 2 cards came out.
And that's my point.
That would have been perfect.
And either that or, maybe you flush one or
Right.
whatever. But no, as far as the random, that doesn't bother me in the least, because you see what's available. If you don't want that, then you don't take a research spot.
Sure. I don't find a lot to dislike about the game. I do wish it was a little heavier, a little meatier than what it is.
So on that note, where would you, I would say on the lighter side of medium.
For us, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that assessment.
Is there a game weight-wise that you would compare it to? Maybe.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit. But,
okay.
It's not... Yeah, I have to think about that before I
that's
shoot
fair.
off the cuff on that.
Sorry to spring that on
I
you.
do think it's a solid little game, though, and it's a little too soon to rate it. Just, only have a few plays in there. My gut feeling is it's probably going to land somewhere around a 4 on our scale of 1 to 6.
That feels right, but again, it's a little early to say, but it's definitely above average.
I think it's useful. It could be another useful game in trying to bring people into some other mechanics, expose them to, a stepping stone, and do some heavier weights as well.
So I'm looking at some of the games I have up on the bookshelf here and thinking games like maybe similar weight-wise, maybe like Yedo or Viticulture, maybe? Completely different.
Completely different, but
apples and giraffes. I get that,
right.
but weight-wise, to give people a,
I think so.
Viticulture is a fair spot.
I think that's a good yardstick. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Right on. Cool. So that is Kraftwagen, guys. Here's Edward to talk about Maria.
So Maria, published in 2009, designed by Richard Seville. Published by Histogame, plays 2 to 3, or so they say. It's a 3-player game.
Yes.
I guess it can be played 2-player, but it's. I know it's in the conversation for one of the best 3-player games in existence. They say it plays in about 3.5 hours, which seems about right, give or take a little bit.
Cool.
So it's 1740. Emperor Charles VI has eaten a meal of death-capped mushrooms and died, leaving no male heirs. However, he has spent decades working to overturn 1,200 years of Salic law in Europe. His life's work, the Pragmatic Sanction of 1713, saw the monarchs of Europe agree to allow his female heir to inherit all of his property.
Whoa.
So it is that 23-year-old Maria Teresa Walburga Amelia Christina becomes the first and only ruler of the Habsburg dominions. Prussia, France, Saxony, and Bavaria, however, promptly break their agreement to the Pragmatic Sanction and invade Austria. Maria pits 3 players against one another during the War of Austrian Succession, with the goal of each player to hit differing numbers of victory points. Players get those victory points by controlling certain fortresses as well as various other political keys. The game ends either by one player hitting their VP mark or at the end of the 4th year, which happens after 12 turns. One player plays as the game's namesake, Maria, and obviously controls Austria. Another player plays as Louis XV and controls both France and its ally, Bavaria. Lastly, the third player, he or she is a bit schizophrenic. On the one hand, that player plays as Friedrich of Prussia, controlling Prussia as well as Saxony, enemy to Austria. But the same player also controls the Pragmatic Army, which is allied with the Austrians. So these 3 players struggle against one another for military and political supremacy in a tangled web of shifting, vague alliances for anywhere between 3 to 6 hours. So, real quick, thanks to Justice Pendleton for some of the synopsis. That was just too good not to use, I gotta be honest.
That was good.
So, Maria, it's a pretty simple war game as far as rules overhead. I want to say there's about 8 pages of rules. It's easy to pitch to non-war gamers. Amanda, my wife, sat in when the three of us, me, Brian, and Chris, were getting ready to go through our first full game. Actually, she sat in on both of them. The entry-level game, the beginner game, and then the expert game, which is the full game. She sat through both the rules explanations, even though we'd all read the rules. She sat in on that and was just chomping at the bit to jump in.
Cool.
And wants to play. So
Right on.
And I'm not saying this from a sexist point of view, but let's face it, there aren't many women that are war gamers.
Right.
And so if there was a game that could exemplify a good, non-war gamer but gamer game to introduce, this would be a pretty solid one. Has a really unique combat system, and I mean really unique. Now,
And by unique, you also mean cool.
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So the board is a point-to-point map, but there's an overlay of a large grid with card suits, one of the 4 regular, poker playing card suits. And each power in the game draws a varying number of cards each turn in which they can use in battle. And the combat system's pretty simple. If 2 generals are on points adjacent to one another, at the end of that player's action, there's going to be a war, kind of, or a battle.
Right.
And how this plays out is the number of troops that each general controls is a hidden number that each player has previously written down on a piece of paper. And so if I start with 4 and your general starts with 6, the difference is 2, and I'm at -2
Right.
to start with. And then we look on the board and see what suit each general is in. It's possible that your general's in hearts and mine's in spades, or it could be that we're both in hearts.
Right.
Whatever the particular general that you control, whatever hex he's in, that's the suit of cards that he can play. So if I'm starting at -2, and like I said, you have hearts, I have spades, I can play spades. So I play a 6 of spades. So now it went from -2 plus 6, which is -4 for you. And then you have to play cards to be able to counter that. Right. And then eventually one of us just says uncle. Right. And either due to not having enough cards
Or just a sandbag.
yeah, just a tactical defeat.
That's correct.
A small number, maybe you lose by 1 or 2. You lose that many units, you have to retreat that many spots, but
Right.
you live to fight another day type thing. Other than Friedrich, which is Richard Sievel's first game
Right.
game in this kind of series.
It's the ancestor of
Right,
this
the
game.
predecessor.
Right.
Other than that, I don't know any other game, period, that has this type of card mechanic. Do you?
No, diceless combat, awesome.
Right.
I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, you and me both.
And my play of Maria was over a year ago, so I really need to address that. But I was really enamored by the combat system in Maria.
I'm a big fan of that, and I'm kind of ambivalent about hidden information in most games, but in war games, it kind of introduces that fog of war, which I do not mind,
No.
especially back then, they didn't have satellites, they didn't have airplanes. You don't know what you're walking into necessarily. And so at the beginning of the game, it's how many units, how many armies, each faction, each of the 3 major powers, or 4 major powers as it were, how many they start with.
Right.
Say, and I forget the exact number, but let's say France starts with 22. I have 5 generals. How I divvy those up, you don't know.
Right.
But you know that I started with 22. And then every winter, you're able to recruit more troops, and you distribute those however you want, but no one else knows.
Right.
And so that kind of hidden information plus the random draws of the cards, you don't know if I have... Maybe I'm staying in a club's hex because I have a lot of clubs and I don't have diamonds.
Right.
And so that's why I'm not pressing forward. Is that why, or is there some other reason that you don't know?
I guess you can relate that as your army is not quite ready.
Yeah, you're right.
To venture forth.
That's a good way to think about it. So bluffing plays a big part in the political part as well as on the tactical map. Again, that bluffing, you see maybe a general moving up north. Is he going to keep going, or does he stop at the hex line, of a certain suit? And on the political part, the way politics are handled, it's pretty cool yet very, very abstracted but very streamlined way. Players get to bid every turn on event cards, and how you bid is whoever won the last battle gets to name Trump. Trump, if you're familiar with most Trump trick-taking games, Trump is, Trump's all suits. So let's say, I won the last battle because you took a 2 defeat or whatever. I say spades or Trump. Everybody can play a card up onto the political board, and you can play a Trump or a non-Trump. If you play a non-Trump, when it's flipped over, just kidding, take it back into your hand. But then if anybody played Trump, or if they had Trump that they didn't use in the previous rounds, those numbers add up. Whoever has the highest score gets to choose one of the 2 event cards that come out. The cool thing about the event cards is I'm not usually really big on flavor text, but we read the flavor text every time one of those came up, because there are just some really... I don't know much about the War of Austrian Succession.
Tastes like history.
Yeah, right. And so it was cool. We're all 3 of us are kind of history buffs, but unless you're familiar with it, it's cool to learn. It gave a bit of a feel of Wir sind das Volk, the event cards, because you're going to move sliders that help or hurt certain factions.
Sure.
You can choose to just... Nothing happens to it. You just discard it. If you win the political event, there's also the election for who's total brain cramp all of a sudden. There's one election in the second year of the game, which our game ended before we got to it.
Oh wow!
But bottom line is really unique, really cool.
Yeah.
I guess there were a couple of downsides. It's not perfectly balanced. Apparently, it's harder to win as Austria. They're talking somewhere around 40% for Friedrich, about 35% for France, and the remainder for Austria. Okay. Yeah. I guess I haven't played enough, but just based on the number of stats people are keeping for
in a war game, that doesn't bother me. I'm used to playing like miniature scenarios of, all right, we're going to play the battle of whatever. Who wants to be the losing side?
Right.
All right, sure, me.
Sure.
It's a different kind of challenge.
Okay.
Is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The other thing, and we found this, new players apparently are prone to this, and we were guilty of this, that Austria feels a bit picked on with inexperienced players, because you have Russia coming in, or Prussia coming in from the north, along with Saxony, and then you have the French and Bavaria coming in from the west, and Austria is just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And instead of us kind of diverting some stuff up north, maybe, and so Austria can feel a little picked on, and poor Brian very much was picked on in our games.
Well, I mean, that probably reflects the actual situation. Being in the center of Europe probably is awesome and sucky.
Right, because you got to defend on all sides, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So I only have one full play, and then we had the beginner game.
Sure.
So I'm not going to rate it. Plus, I do hope that sometime in the moderately soon future that we actually give it a full featured review, which will give us more plays. So I'm going to hold off on my rating on this. But yeah, definitely excited and looking forward to playing this more.
Same here.
Cool. And that's Maria. For this week, instead of doing a featured game, we decided we'd kind of back the view out and kind of give a more broad view. And instead of a featured game, we're going to go featured designer for this episode.
Yeah.
And who's that going to be, Tony?
We're going to talk about Uwe Rosenberg.
One of my Mount Rushmore guys.
Oh, both. And, clearly he's one of our favorite designers. And, yeah, like I said, we wanted to back this one out. Take a little time to discuss Uwe and his games and what turns us on with respect to those things. And so in the process of doing so, we're going to take advantage of several resources that we found and sources of information. And so right up front, I want to call out Wikipedia, of course. There is a biographical sketch of Uwe on BGG that we mined for some information. There's a 2012 interview, Mapletown, Derek Thompson, and a 2008 interview, also on BGG, with N. Ma. And so thank you guys. You've provided a wealth of information.
Did the heavy lifting, right?
So we're going to piggyback on that and use that to intersperse some of that information into our thoughts and stuff. So Uwe Rosenberg, born 27th of March, 1970 in Aurich, Germany, which is in northwest Germany. And he got his start in game playing chess, and even before that, card games and different games with his grandmother, I believe it was.
Which explains a lot.
Which, yeah, well, I mean, I've played games with my grandmother too.
Yeah, but fair enough.
So as a youth, that turned into, in like the early mid-'80s, playing play-by-email games.
Which is crazy. That's just... I can't imagine how long those would take.
Talk about downtime. But you can hide the AP well, I guess.
Yeah, right.
You know. So while he was in this play by email or by mail, by postal. Mm-hmm. I hope I didn't say email earlier.
You did, but I
play by
heard.
Postal, like
right.
Stamp, mail it. Wait. Yeah. So anyway, that's how he met Hanno Gurka and in '87, and later those guys and somebody else founded Lookout Games.
Right, which is still going strong today.
Interestingly enough, they met playing a game of diplomacy. Now, this might be the first recorded instance of diplomacy creating a friendship,
as opposed to ruining them. Right.
Right. So. Uwe has been doing professional game design since he got out of school in '98.
Rough life.
Man, what a lucky guy.
Right.
But I mean, I guess with talent like that, it's gonna work out that way. And I'm sure Lookout Games is a great forum for him. He mentioned that it allows him to have a great amount of control over the aspects of the design, and being able to nurture designs for, I guess, literally as long as he wants.
Right.
Until he wants it published.
Which
right?
I as a designer, I guess, wouldn't all designers, aren't their games their babies in a sense that they don't want anyone messing with them?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting take that he's like, you know what? No, I want hands off. I don't want anyone else for my games to be able to mess with it.
He said that's what he wants.
Right. And at the same time, he play tests the hell out of the games from what he said. Yeah, he's talking like 200 different play testers for various games.
Yeah.
And just, so I guess if you're not going to have a separate developer, that's kind of what you need to do. Sure. Use the public as the developer, right?
One of the coolest things I discovered about Uwe and his game design stuff, that he credits the 18XX series of games as being a big influence on his desire to create more complex games.
Really?
I thought that was awesome.
I missed that apparently. That. So I wonder if that is where the switch got flipped, kind of between his early games. Which I got to be honest, I'm still fairly new to the hobby. I mean, I've been in the hobby less than 3 years now, and I guess I knew it, but it never really registered that Uwe Rosenberg, until Agricola, was a card game designer.
Yeah.
Exclusively. Like, we're talking Mike Fitzgerald, area. Just, that's all he did. And it just, I was like, really? That's it? And I had no idea, I'll be honest.
I hope it was 18XX, but whatever flipped that switch.
Glad it did.
The man's got 4 games in the top 50 right now. Number 3, Caverna. Number 6, Agricola, which was number 1 for like 3 freaking years.
Right.
Number 13, Le Havre. And number 44, Aura at Labora.
Which I am going to call now. I expect Aura at Labora to move up now that it's getting a reprint this year, which I also hope becomes, or there's an expansion in the works, I hope, with it, more buildings. It said that's the one thing that game needs.
Yeah, it'd be great. I love doing it in Ireland and I love doing it in France, but
more variety is good.
Something else would be cool. Let's do it in Russia. Vodka and potatoes.
I'll just take... That'd be good, too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hopefully, Uwe, he'll use that idea. It's free. You can have it. And please, keep designing games for decades more, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's start talking about Uwe Rosenberg's catalog. But, it's too big. We can't talk about everything.
And I'll be honest, there's a lot of those games I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And I pride myself on knowing a lot of games. I was like, don't know it. Don't know it.
A lot of
don't
his
know
list is more Bean game expansions and stuff like that. But and honestly, there's a lot of things in his catalog that we don't find that interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is we've just picked several games that we're going to go through in chronological order and chat about them just a tad.
Yeah, because also a lot of the games that his earlier designs, there were like 20 or so BGG users that are showing it as owned.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got nothing on those. Sorry, guys.
So let's start with Bonanza,
Which is his breakout game, the one that put him on the map.
1997. Apparently, his area of Germany, his native area of Germany, is just like bean obsessed. It is.
Which would make a lot of sense.
The regional cuisine is beans. Bean sandwiches, bean chocolate shakes, bean everything. He actually mentioned that his father, he recalls his father spending untold hours threading beans together for the purposes of drying them for a certain dish and stuff like that. I mean, it's Bean City over there, man.
Hey, go with what you know, right?
Do you like Bonanza? Do you like beans?
I love beans.
Love beans.
Love beans.
Musical fruit.
Right. Wasn't gonna go there.
That's why I'm here.
Try the veal. Be here all week. Yes, I enjoy Bonanza. I wouldn't say that it's not one of my top games.
Yeah.
I do. There are certain things about it that I really like.
Like what?
I'm good at negotiation games, which
Sure.
may not come as a big surprise. I like to talk and whatever. I'm outgoing. Really, I've been told.
Yeah.
The main thing in Bonanza is the drawing of the cards and keeping them in specific order. You can't mix your hand.
Right.
And I don't know of any other game that does that aspect. Like, okay, if you draw it, there you go.
Keep it right there.
Right. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a fun negotiation game. It usually gets a lot of laughs whenever we're playing it and whatever.
Artwork and stuff. But
Yeah.
The negotiation is really about the only thing I enjoy about the game. I'm not really a big fan. My friend Desmond derisively calls it that bean game.
Well,
And I agree with him.
Well,
he's not doesn't mean it flatteringly.
Well, wasn't Uwe was known as the bean guy, right? The bean game designer,
Bean game guy.
right?
And there's like 400 expansions and add-on modules, and
Which
including one with Napoleon as a bean. That's my emperor. I don't really like that very much. That's riding his horse.
right. So Bean
anyway.
riding the horse dressed as Napoleon.
Yeah, something.
I'm gonna have to go look at that one. All right.
Agricola in 2007. Now that's the breakout game.
What game is that?
Wait a minute, let me. Agricola?
Agricola.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
right. So my question though is, so it's a war game?
Yeah. It's about a Roman general.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Right. No. Okay. All right. All stale, old, terrible jokes.
Yeah.
Aside.
And we recently reviewed Agricola, so
We did. We
probably
love it.
Not tons and tons of things to say, but yeah, we love it. Some information that we learned in some of our research from on this episode was that he worked for like 2 years on this game. So he nurtured Agricola for 2 years.
Which makes sense because you have to nurture the land in farming.
Right. and since I guess 2005, he was playing Caylus continuously during that time. He says, and that was a great influence on his design process and on Agricola,
Which
as itself. And like,
it's got to be apparent.
so like when he says that he sketched out everything for Agricola like after his Caylus binge, and he said like, okay, we can just go ahead and publish this game now, except for he didn't. They played it for 2 years, and he just obsessively created more and more Agricola cards.
Which would explain the 7,432 decks that are currently available.
He said he didn't need it. It wasn't a marketing concept. It was just something he was passionate about. I mean, so that's really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, you want people designing games that are passionate about them.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you get soulless, just bleh.
JASE.
Right.
Yeah, definitely not that.
Right.
So Le Havre
In
came out
2008, right?
We did a review early in Heavy Cardboard's history on Le Havre.
And that was, at least until recently, was arguably your number one game, correct?
Oh yeah, it's still one of my absolute favorite games. I love Le Havre. I love it with any player count, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just sit me down and let's go.
Yeah, I have no problem. A lot of people are like, ugh, if you play more than 3. I have no problem.
Yeah.
As long as we're playing with players that aren't APN to death, I don't mind even playing it with up to 5.
Dude, it's super fun with just 2.
Yeah.
You know? The transition of goods from one thing to another through the use of the buildings and how the buildings have your worker placement and the blocking on that. It's just an amazing thing. Questions like, how can I not take that stack of fish? I don't even need that many fish.
There's
but
12 fish. What am I supposed to do?
Can't let you have them.
Right, exactly. 2 wood. I need the wood, but there's 12 fish. Yeah, exactly.
One of the interesting things I read was that Uwe says he had the idea for Le Havre before Agricola.
Really?
So this waited for Agricola to come through 2 years of love and being published, and then a year or so in between the publishing of Agricola and Le Havre. He said he had the idea for Le Havre before he had the idea for Agricola.
Huh.
Is that crazy?
That really is. So, wow. That was a good year span or so for him.
Yeah. There's some even crazier stuff coming. The next thing on the list is Agricola, Farmers of the Moor. Now, this is the one expansion I put on this list from my aspect. It came out in 2009 just because it adds so much awesomeness to Agricola that I felt like we should probably just put it on the list.
Well, in our Agricola episode, we had harped on that I personally have never played Agricola without Farmers of the Moor.
Right.
Amanda has played it once without Farmers of the Moor. She started with playing with Farmers of the Moor, and then played without it, and says, she wants it in there.
It is just one of the best expansions ever made for any game.
Which kind of rolls into Uwe's, I guess, thought process or methodology or philosophy. There you go. Of what makes a good game expansion.
It's got 4 tenets.
Right. The first one is minimal new rules overhead, which, I mean, Farmers of the Moor is a stellar example of that.
Right.
It adds a lot of game without a whole lot of new rules.
Right. The people that know the game can just go delve a little deeper into the game.
Yep. The second one is the narrative universe must be expanded.
Yes.
The third one is basically apply learned strategies to new situations, or the expansion should include a new game engine. So unpack that a little.
I think, with Farmers of the Moor, I don't know if it's an engine, but it's certainly something your engine needs to produce. Peat. Or more wood to make heat, because now not only do you need to upkeep with food, you need to upkeep with heat, and that depends on the size and building material of your rooms. And so I kind of feel like that's sort of quasi new engine.
I could see it. It's a I don't want to say a punishment engine, but it's an obstacle that you now need to overcome, an additional obstacle that you need to overcome.
And it puts tiles down on your farm board, right, that you have to take off via these new special action cards. So there's a whole little level of new engine, I guess, right there. So there's more things for the players to do to deal with these things that showed up on their cards that will now help them overcome this new upkeep that they have to deal with.
Yeah, that's well put. And the last thing that he said is the expansion should have the right price-performance ratio as if it were a basic game. In other words, should be tested as thoroughly as if it were a standalone game. So we're talking going back to Agricola, it had a 2-year digestion or a gestation period of hammering it out and everything else. Farmers of the Moor, how long did it take? I don't think he mentioned that, but
I don't know.
At the same time, it fits seamlessly into the game.
Oh yeah.
So there's got to be a fair amount of, development via playtesters in there. So I found that cool that he actually had kind of 4 tenets that he goes by. Like, look, if I'm thinking of an expansion for a game, it's not a price grab, it's not a money grab. Look, it's going to fit these 4 things. If it doesn't,
standards
exactly.
I was like, whoa.
Which, I mean, it's professional pride, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's computer programming, whether it's working on aircraft, whatever, you do it because you do it right because you have pride in what you do. That's exactly what he's saying here.
Absolutely.
And he's the first that I've heard that has not a philosophy, but I would say actual written in stone tenets. Like, look, if it doesn't fit this, it either isn't going out or it needs more cooking.
Right.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, hats off to him. That's awesome.
So also in 2009, At the Gates of Loyang was released.
Which I need to play more.
Yeah.
I've only played it once or twice. I know a lot of people say you and I are not big solo gamers. I understand that, but I've heard that it's a really good solo game.
Yes. For what a solo game can give me, sure.
Right.
I love the game with 2. I really, really like the game with 3, and I like the game with 4.
Is it due to, again, I've only played it, I think, once, maybe twice.
Gotcha.
Is it because of a playtime, like it overstays?
No,
type
with 4, you kind of pair up at one phase in each turn just to make it go a little quicker, and often it doesn't matter, but it just feels kind of weird.
Okay.
But I don't mind.
Is that a Tony thing, or is that with 4 it's do you know?
Might probably be a Tony thing.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I am a little weird, man.
Well, hey, I don't like Glenn Moore, right?
Hey,
so
that's right.
Whatever.
Dude, the insane veggie meeples.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Oh my god. The cool thing about Loyang for me is I like the little engine where you're getting your markets and your buyers and all that stuff, and you're selling those veggies. But the scoring, I think, is just brilliant. The scoring mechanic, where at the end of every round, you can pay $1 to move ahead one space, and then you can pay money equal to the next space and the next space and the next space to keep moving. As long as you got money, keep moving, right? So hey, to go from 7 to 8, that'll cost you $1. But you want to go from 8 to 9. That's going to cost you 9. Then, so if you pay that, you want to go to 10. That'll cost you 10.
Right.
And it never gets cheaper. So you're really, really incentivized to get your money earning thing going. And utter brilliance.
We need to play that soon.
Yeah. This is a game that he says he play tested with over 200 people,
which is just nuts. And the funny thing is I read that he knew it wasn't going to be a big hit. This, along with Mercator, due to the feedback, but he knew that enough people would like it, and he was okay with that. And I thought that was kind of cool. The fact that, is this going to be a monster smash? No, but I'm proud of what I did, and it has its fans.
He said, and I quote, "Loyang is the most exhausting game I've ever invented."
Really?
Yeah, and there wasn't much elaboration there, but I mean, it sounds like just developing all those interactions with the buyers and the markets and the scoring mechanic and everything. Like, he sounds like he really put a lot of thought into it, and a lot of 200 playtesters. I mean, I can imagine 200 playtesters. You imagine the wide berth of feedback you probably got. I mean,
how do you narrow that down?
Right. That alone has to be exhausting.
And maybe that's why, right?
So you mentioned Mercator. That came out the next year in 2010. And again, he said he play tested that with over 200 people as well. And as you and I talked about Mercator in last episode, we played it. A lot of great mechanics that you just don't quite add up for what we're wanting.
It's a fine game.
It's a fine game. Man.
Yeah, it's milquetoast. I'm
glad I got to play it.
Yeah.
There's some really neat stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, while he was designing and developing the next game is when these last 2 games came out.
Yeah. Ora Labora 2011 release, but a 2008 inception.
Right.
So while he's like cooking Ora Labora, which is a friggin' masterpiece, I think, for me,
it's
pushed out At the Gates of Loyang, which is brilliant, and Mercator, which is less
fine.
brilliant.
Right. Yeah.
So I just found that to be shocking.
While he's developing Ora Labora, here, let me go ahead and playtest the hell out of these other two games and get them out for the masses because of the fact that he knew this was going to be a long process.
Yeah. I'm completely smitten by Ora et Labora.
The only reason that I think, in my opinion, that it's not higher than Le Havre is the lack of variability with the buildings. There are two separate games in there. There's France and Ireland, right? But it's the same buildings that come out every single time. And so
Same ones in Le Havre, too.
but you got the special buildings, which the deck is about yay high.
Yeah.
You know,
I guess there is some more variance. But
and plus the order.
to me, it's close.
Plus the order in which those three stacks in Le Havre come out. So I
In
feel
OEL,
like
you can build whatever's available.
right, and so I wonder if that's the one thing that's kept it
Okay.
behind, because I love the spatial quality of the cloister.
Like, you start with this board. You got to add land to it. Mm-hmm. Price of land goes up, by the way.
And
God's not making more. Buy land.
and everybody's going to develop their own area differently.
Absolutely. Laying out the buildings on there and keeping in mind that spatial element of like, okay, cloister buildings have to go next to cloister buildings, but I need to be able to plop some villages down there and score the village in this orthogonal manner, and some buildings are pluses and some buildings are minuses.
Right.
That whole thing, coupled with the resource wheel.
Which we went, so we like the game so much, if this should explain it. We bought a Lazy Susan at IKEA strictly for this game.
Right.
So just thought I'd throw that out there. Just
So you take all that and then you put the resource progression on there.
It's fantastic. It really, really is good.
My only complaint is the building cards are small. So if you're playing with four, you're like, will you have that one?
Well, especially at your age, Grandpa.
Oh, yeah. That's true. But this is another one. Love it, two-player, too. You know, at HeavyCon, Brian and I played the long two-player game. I got housed. I loved every second of it. That was his first two-player.
Never played it 2, but I played it 3 and 4 and adore it.
So interesting one I wanted to throw out here. Le Havre, the inland port.
I have no interest in playing it because in my research of this game a year and a half ago or whatever it was, people had said that if I'm going to play the two-player version of Le Havre, I'm just going to play Le Havre.
Yeah.
Instead of the inland port.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I really enjoy Le Havre. I'm all set, thanks. So I have no experience with it whatsoever.
It's a 2012er, and it's a two-player. And it was gifted to me by Matt, our buddy Matt, and we banged it out a couple times. It's pretty cool. It's kind of spreadsheety. It's got a couple of different ideas.
Which is fine. That doesn't bother me at all.
Right? You get a little taste of Le Havre, but like both of us said, hey, let's play Le Havre.
Right.
It's not a substitute, right? So,
not at all.
That was a 2012.
And the funny thing is the next game on the list, I'm going to say the exact same thing I just said about.
Yeah. So 2012 also saw Agricola, All Creatures Great and Small.
Right.
And it's the two-player Agricola. I've never played it, and I don't know if I even want to. I feel like I'm going to be disappointed anyway.
I really like Agricola. Why do I feel the need to get a two-player version of Agricola when Agricola is
fantastic,
a masterpiece with two?
Yeah.
But hey, if it floats your boat, go for it. And people, I read enough that people enjoy it. So good.
It's got expansions. Well, it's an Uwe,
right?
But he says that the game was intended to introduce new people to Agricola.
So okay. Having no experience with the family version of Agricola,
me neither.
Any idea why the why
Right,
he
there
felt
is
the
a
need.
family of-
right.
I don't
So
know.
why do you feel the need for an entry level when you already have that
Yeah.
in the box?
Not having played, I can't answer it.
Sure.
Maybe somebody can chime into the guild that has played.
Yeah,
it.
so I'm curious if anyone has any experience and might have an opinion. Obviously, we don't know unless we ask Uwe himself.
Right.
Which maybe we will next year.
Sounds good.
Cool.
So 2013 saw
This right. Well, I guess going back to 2012 is the point at which it started to become a little hit or miss, more miss than hit, as far as me.
I'm going to totally disagree with you.
Which is fine, but
So Glass Road was
Right.
was the first one on the list from 2013. I really enjoy the game. I think it's underappreciated. It's not a great game, it's not OEL or anything like that, but that card mechanic
that's what I was about
where
to
you can,
say
where you
is
can follow along.
right. The card play in that game I think is stellar.
If
It's
I'm
fantastic.
smart and I'm paying attention, I'm getting 5 actions this turn.
As opposed to just your normal 3.
Right.
For me, I guess where it plays quickly, it doesn't overstay. In fact, it almost plays too quickly in a sense that you're like, should it go on a little bit longer? So I love the card play. I enjoy the short play time. That's fine. I don't like just the way the buildings and the resources work. It's just
Wow.
It just falls a little flat.
I couldn't
for me.
disagree more.
Okay.
Just the spatial element, it's different in terms of you have ponds and forests and sand pits and things that you can rip up, forests and things like that. You are putting buildings out there. I love those rondelle wheels. Each player's got 2. One for the production of glass and one for the production
For
of bricks.
Right.
And they each one, you keep track of the resources needed to do so. But you can only have like say 3 bricks. And so like when you're pegged on 3, that's kind of an interesting tactic. You want to kind of get there so you can max out some other things so you can spend the bricks and make more bricks. And I just think that wheel is really, really smart.
Oh, I'm not arguing. I felt it was diminishing returns. Like I really, really enjoyed it my first play. And subsequent plays, after about 5 plays, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of over it.
That's too bad. It's not OEL, like I'm saying. I really dig it. I think one of the refreshing things is like 25 points is a good score.
Sure, a low score. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and we like that, like in colonialism
Right.
or whatever. So I have an interesting question. I think it
Okay.
is for this. So there was a combination of buildings in which there was a infinite loop possible,
Sure.
right?
This year, as you said, started maybe a decline. It also started this appearance of these infinite loops in several games.
So, and I'm not asking you this expecting you to have an answer, but it's just kind of okay. So this man prides himself on extensively playtesting, having all these playtesters and all this. How does something like that come through then? Is he playtesting less, and so these things are slipping through the cracks, or
Yeah,
what?
maybe.
I'm not. I don't mean this to come across as accusatory.
Sure.
It's just okay. You look at all this. The man prided himself so much on playtesting all these for so long. But then again, at the same time, you look at say Magic the Gathering. There are certain cards. Well, no. But hear me out. There are cards that get banned from tournament play because, oh, wait, those are overpowered. Oops. Maybe there's just the amount of playtesters is going to be much, much smaller than the amount of players that actually play the game.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that. But I find it interesting that there are these loops that you said that have popped up all of a sudden.
Right.
So
That's
I wonder what causes it.
That's an excellent point. And I don't know. I know that in this game particularly, the odds of that particular thing coming up are minuscule.
Sure.
Just because of the way buildings come out and everything.
Sure, I get that. It's just, I find it interesting.
Yeah,
That's
I do
all.
too.
I just figure that it should at least be brought up and asked.
So another game, 2013, another game with an infinite loop possibility is Caverna the Cave Farmers or as he originally referred to it, Agricola cave farmers.
You first.
Okay. I love this game. Matt and I both. It's we play 2-player, like an hour, boom, and we've had a lot of fun. Is it too open? Yeah. Bite me. I really don't care.
That's my problem.
That's
with it.
Less challenging doesn't necessarily mean it's less fun. There's two kinds of fun I'm experiencing. Like with Agricola, that's fun. That's work fun. With Caverna, this is play fun. That's what it is.
I think it's a me problem. That more so than it is Caverna. I expected kind of Agricola 2.0. And this isn't.
I can understand.
And that's a perception problem. Maybe I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a perception problem because I just that's what I wanted it to be. That's what I assumed, or whether that's the way it was presented as Agricola 2.0.
I think a lot of people. I don't know
Right.
what the presentation from Uwe or Lookout Games was. I think people just assumed and gravitated to Agricola 2.0.
And
We
with
do that.
and
The internet does exist.
Sure. The reason I'm on it is it's just too open. There's no the one of the premises in our worker placement or action drafting is there must be denial.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of ways around various things. And so
To some degree, I can deny you many things. There are several opportunities for you to get other things.
right. And you're blocking me from that? This is equally good. I'll go do this. That's fine.
Not in every case.
More often than not. My point
Anyway.
is I expected it to be tighter than it was.
Sure.
And so it's hard for me to get past that.
Right.
And so because of that, seeing it ranked up there higher than Agricola just makes me want to, torture small animals. Not really, but you get the idea.
That's just the
masses. I understand. Agricola is so good.
absolutely. Like, hey, Tone, you want to play Agricola or Caverna? Agricola.
Right.
Hey, Tone, you want to play Caverna with me? Absolutely.
That actually, yes, that sums it up well.
Let me tell you one thing I think Caverna kills Agricola in. The spatial. Like your own board with the farm and the mine and stuff like that.
That's cool, sure.
Destroyed.
I don't know
Yes.
about that. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I no.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, yeah. So I figured that Caverna would be the one big divergent area for you and I.
But we're not that divergent. I just don't mind playing it because I extract a different kind of fun from it.
And it's hard for me to get past my expectations. So if you're going to ask me, hey, do you want to play Agricola or Caverna in almost any other 4-player game or whatever? Yes, the other game. Right. And I do find it humorous that plays
7. No,
who's going to do that? Is it? I wonder if they did that just to be able to add more stuff into the box because, look at the huge box that you're getting all this stuff.
Here's another $25.
Here's 7 players that, you know what that's good for? A 3 and a 4-player game of Caverna.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
I know, but oh my God, I'd rather go to work than play 7-player Caverna.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So Patchwork came out in 2014, another just 2-player game.
Neither of us have played.
I know.
And both of us want to play it.
It was supposed to be pretty good. Yeah.
It was played at HeavyCon.
At HeavyCon, Tony played it. The other
but
Tony.
just it hasn't worked out.
Yeah. It's one to try.
For the folks on Twitter and on Facebook and everybody, the next time I hear something negative said about Patchwork will be the first time.
Really?
Legitimately.
Right.
I have not heard a single negative about that game.
So also in 2014, another 2-player only, The Fields of Arla.
Fantastic.
Arla Erda.
I really, really like. Well, I shouldn't say fantastic. Really good game.
Yeah. The story is set in the village that Uwe's father grew up in.
Which is just...
Parents got married there and everything. All those things mean something to the designer of the game. All the elements of the game.
I'm glad to see they didn't get eaten by the dragon.
Yes.
The shadow on
yes,
on the
that
path.
one. Yeah.
Right.
Wonder what that's about.
Little interjection. Not sure if you guys can hear, but apparently we moved to Florida because again, the storms have kept up, and it's thundering and storming pretty bad out there. So
to us, that thunderclap was audible.
Yeah.
I don't know if the mic picked it up. This Fields of Arla was designed for like 4 players, but he reduced it to 2 because of game length, and in particular, he says downtime between turns.
Which is funny. This coming from the guy who has
Put in
7-player
Caverna. So apparently, with extreme brilliance comes certain idiosyncrasies.
Right, but good on him.
Yeah.
I know some people gripe that, I wish it weren't just 2 players.
I'd love
that,
but
it's a great 2-player game.
It's a terrific game.
It's supposed to be a decent
Right.
solo game as well. It feels good playing.
It does.
Fields of Arl.
Played it many times now. Don't like it solo. I've mentioned it. Solo's like a training game.
Right.
And the spatial element on that is interesting as well.
And I love all the paths.
If the lights go off, we'll keep recording.
Right.
All this is running on battery.
I like all the paths that you can choose on in Fields of Arl.
Yeah.
Like our very first game. In fact, my first 2 games, I didn't touch the traveling and the garments. Just didn't even bother, and I'm competitive in both those games. So I love that so many different paths that you can take.
I like that, they got the winter and the summer actions, and that they're different. For the most part, there's a couple things you can do in either season, and that you can break the rules.
And the first one to go to the other season, the other player is first player for the next season,
first player.
Which is it's genius. It's so just well done.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't come up with enough good words to say about a lot of his mechanics.
So 2015.
Which is currently 2015. Right.
Sometime this summer, Essen, somewhere in there.
There's what was going to be called Sons of Odin, right?
It's Hengist.
Which, any idea what that means?
It means the gist of Hen. I have no idea. It's probably some
I'm guessing it's German?
Nordic word for chicken thief or something. It is a Viking-themed complex worker placement game that I want to be here tomorrow.
Right. Some people have described it as Agricola or Fields of Arl meets Patchwork. Which, the first half we're all on boards with.
The first 2/3.
Right.
Arla and Agricola.
And I've yet to hear anything bad about Patchwork, so yay. I'm curious to see what kind of playtime it's going to be looking at. I don't know if it's going to be a shorter game like Patchwork or Glass Road, or if it's going to be on the longer side like Fields of Arl, Agricola, etc.
Looking at the pictures of it's going to be on the longer.
I hope so. I saw the same pictures, but I hope so.
It also sounds like it's going to be expensive, lots of bits, like Caverna was expensive. Maybe it's going to be a 7-player Viking game. And you do have to feed your Vikings. There is the upkeep, but you have to feed them a balanced diet of vegetables and meat, from what I understand.
Well, I mean,
a good Viking must eat his peas, apparently. You get to hunt and collect resources. Sounds like there's a little bit of looting going on there. I don't know if that's a mechanic or you loot from other players or something like that. There's a main game board, like in Fields of Arla. There's the main board and your own board, and so a lot of that action drafting is taken on the main board. And there's some resource refining, like you find in many Uwe Rosenberg games, where this good becomes that good, which becomes that good.
Right, so, resource conversion,
resource tree or something. Yeah. Apparently, you acquire ships for both travel and whaling.
Hello, Vikings.
And by travel, I mean raiding and settling.
Rock on.
Yeah. And you earn income and stuff. This is all very unclear to me still, but you arrange things on this tableau, and this tableau is like a spreadsheet, a grid of numbers that you start covering things up. And it appears that the numbers left exposed indicate some victory point scoring kind of a thing at the end of the game. So it looks kind of like you have to Tetris in your pieces to get the most optimal coverage or something.
That would be where the patchwork aspect comes in.
Maybe so. So Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
insta-buy for
Yeah,
me. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Vikings and
And Uwe.
Uwe Rosenberg
Right.
and
Win.
worker placement and
Action drafting.
Sorry. So, anyway, any other things from his catalog jumped out at you
No,
that we didn't leave off?
and like we said earlier, there's going to be a lot of. We didn't hit on some of the more obscure games.
Right. There's
we
one.
just-
There's one I'm gonna talk about as we move into the next thing that is a little obscure. So let's move on to the next thing.
All right.
So in our next thing, let's talk about our top 5 Rosenbergs. And we don't have to go into descriptions or anything like that. Just a ranking of them, and I'll even start.
Okay.
With number 5.
And I hate ranking. It's so hard. Like you're talking to a guy who doesn't have a number 1 game. I don't know what it is.
But all you have to do is consider a handful of Rosenbergs.
Sure, but then to rank them 1 through 5, go ahead, go.
At the Gates of Loyang, my number 5.
It's also my number 5, and the only reason I can definitively say it's not higher is I haven't played it enough.
Sure. What's your 4?
My 4 is Fields of Arle.
Okay.
Yours?
Caverna.
Oh, all right.
My 3, Agricola.
My 3rd, Le Havre.
Le Havre.
Yep.
Your 2?
Is Agricola.
Agricola. Mine is Ora et Labora.
All right.
And my number 1's Le Havre.
There you go. And mine is Or et Labora.
Right on.
And to be honest with you, I did Or et Labora as number 1 in the anticipation that the reprint is going to spawn more buildings in Or et Labora. I enjoy I enjoy the game more than Agricola, although it's super, super close. I'm sorry. I enjoy it more than Le Havre, and it's close because I could have drawn all 3, Or et Labora, Agricola, or Le Havre. Could have put them in any order and been fine with. But I enjoy Or et Labora more than Le Havre, but the only reason I would edge Le Havre higher is because the variability with the buildings. But yeah, I could have told you what your top 5 are and probably what my top 5 are. So yeah, I don't know if that's a big non-surprise to people.
Yeah. So besides Hengist, what Uwe Rosenberg game that you have not tried would you most like to try next?
Outside of the Viking one,
besides Hengist.
a lot of Uwe Rosenberg's obscure games are card games, which there's nothing wrong with card games, but those don't interest me as much as things with boards.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sure.
So I guess it would be Patchwork. The key being that I haven't played. I would say game.
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
That you have not played.
The game I'm most looking forward to getting to the table again soon, probably Gates of Loyang.
Awesome.
Just because every time I'm like, yeah, I want to play that, and then we just never do. And it's not a fault of anybody. It's just we have a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it would be Patchwork because I want to experience this fantastic, lighter 45-minute whatever length game that everyone's talking about, and just haven't gotten around to it. So I assume this is going to be your obscure game.
Yeah. So mine is Farmerama. It was a 2012, and it's not heavy. It might not even be medium. They're wheels. I love wheels. They're wheels.
He's simple at times, folks. Don't mind Tony.
It does offer the ability to play your opponent by predicting what they're going to do with some cards, a la Glass Road, and it looks to me like Glass Road on a farm. You're growing different vegetables, farming.
Shocker.
I don't doubt that it won't be a long-lived game for me. It looks kind of family weight, maybe. My wife might like it, kind of a weight. And
she plays Craftsman. Don't sell her short.
That's fair.
And owns you with Craftsman, so let's not sell her short. But I get
more than me.
I get what you're saying.
You know me, I'm happy to rent a game for the experience. Like, let me buy it, and bang it out a couple times,
and then flip it. Yep.
Get rid of.
Sure.
To me, flip implies profit.
No, not necessarily. No,
Oh, okay.
no, you're
Okay.
renting
Gotcha.
a game,
Gotcha.
so you know
Yeah,
you have
it's
a
like,
rental fee. You'll sell it for
I'll
less.
pay $40, sell it for $30. I pay $10 to
to try a new game.
experience new stuff.
There you
right? 'Cause
go.
That's what I'm into that.
Yeah.
So let's give a little summary and rating on Herr Rosenberg.
All right, your summary first. I'll go summary, then I'll give a rating.
Okay, cool.
Although, let's face it, everyone knows where this is going to end up. But go ahead.
So short and sweet then. I totally respect his catalog, and I really appreciate the hours and hours of fun and social camaraderie that Herr Rosenberg's designs have given me and my friends.
Yeah, I not much to add to that. Just, I'm glad he exists. I'm glad he decided to get into game design, and not just us, but the hobby as a whole is better off with Uwe Rosenberg in it. So with that said, rating 1 to 6, 6 being Hall of Fame. Well, let's go back one episode and let's talk Mount Rushmore. So on both of our Mount Rushmores, Uwe Rosenberg was on it.
Yeah.
Can you give him anything other than a 6? For me, the answer is no. It's obviously a 6.
Yeah. Clear Hall of Famer.
With my top 5 alone, well, even if you took Gates of Loyang out, that still leaves you Agricola, Orit, Labor, Le Havre, and Fields of Arles.
Yeah.
There were people that would kill their children to have a record that good. Not to mention Bonanza, which is a huge hit back in the day. Just 6. Clearly a 6.
Well, Mr. Rosenberg from the Heavy Cardboard guys, thank you very much.
So I assume that's a 6 for you.
Oh yeah, clear, clear Hall. I said clear Hall of Famer.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
cool.
6.
Yeah, seriously, thanks for all you do. Keep it up, and you got a couple fans here in Heavy Cardboard.
That's Uwe Rosenberg.
With last night being the big season-ending episode of Game of Thrones, where... No, not going to do that to you guys. I felt like it was a good time to kind of ask you a non-gaming issue. It came up. It's been big on social media today. It's been big in mainstream, actually.
Mainstream, too.
And,
Okay.
like CNN, whatever, they had an article on it and stuff like that, Wall Street Journal, etc.
Okay.
Even though I know you don't watch much by way of TV as far as like series and stuff like that, my question for you is, what do you think about spoilers? Should there be an amount of time that's socially acceptable for spoilers to be thrown out there? And does consideration of others come into play? I'll throw that to you. Obviously, I have my own take. I'll go first. Fine.
Okay.
All right. My thinking on spoilers is the show aired last night. I believe it's season 5 currently right now. But let me talk specifically about Game of Thrones for a minute. It's season 5. People who have not read the books have spent 5 years now of their lives, during the season of a show, being invested in the show.
Okay.
I think it is way out of line for anybody to put it out there, the spoiler, to any of the big events that have happened in the show's history before a reasonable amount of time. What's a reasonable amount of time? I don't know. A week, 2 weeks? I don't know.
Oh.
But I just think it's just a lack of consideration with social media nowadays and everything. It's all anonymous and stuff like that.
Have you met the internet?
I know. And I guess it just bums me out, man. Like, what's the point of putting a spoiler out there? Like this soon after it aired, what positive comes out of it? Why can't you just wait? Because if you've invested all this amount of time into and the proverbial blood, sweat, and tears that you've invested in this show, who am I to go and ruin it for you? Whatever the big reveal or whatever the big thing is. Big picture. Not even just, I'm talking not just Game of Thrones, just, I don't get, is it just to be a dick? Is it
Probably. I mean, to some, because this is the information age, right? Like,
the age of trolls?
I've got a scoop. Everybody wants to be maybe this is the wrong way to think about it, but like I haven't been in vested in a show, until like Walking Dead and Sopranos, right?
Okay,
So
all right, sure.
I don't watch much TV.
Right.
It's got to have mafia, vampires, or zombies, or I won't watch it. So when Sopranos ended, guess where I was? Watching it.
But okay, let's say you had a newborn.
Season ending of Walking Dead, guess where I was? Watching it.
But would you go out and spoil it because somebody else couldn't watch it?
Absolutely not.
That's my point.
But also, I don't want to be spoiled either, so I watched it.
Valid. I guess my point...
Not always possible.
And that's all I'm saying. What if somebody had to work late and they couldn't watch it or whatever, or maybe...
Yeah.
I don't know.
This was on Mike and Mike this morning on the radio, where he was talking about he has to DVR college football games and watch them at 3 a.m. and divorce himself from all social media until
so it's just...
It's not just Game of Thrones.
Here's my point. You can talk about what happened last night on Game of Thrones without saying what it was. You can be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And you can actually have a conversation without spoiling it for the rest of the world. Anyway, that's my rant. Maybe I'm old fashioned. I just think zip it.
In general, the world is a far less considerate place than it was 5, 10.
Yeah,
Can you imagine 50 years from now?
It makes me sad, and I've debated whether or not to say this sentence to you, considering you just became a grandfather. But would you believe that's one of the reasons that Amanda and I don't want to have kids? I don't like what society's becoming in that respect, and so we're not.
That's a fair statement.
So it's just Anyway, off my soapbox. I'm done.
All right.
Yeah, let's lighten.
You're
it
not
up.
done.
Well, no, I'm not.
Because I want to throw you some questions.
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's been a while since I've given you the psychological testing.
Right. So you told me that you were going to have some questions for me.
Yes.
You refused to give me any hints.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They're simple stuff. It's nothing crazy. But so
all right, I'm ready now.
I'll throw them out.
I'll catch
answer.
'em. Okay.
I'll answer. I'll go to the next one.
Okay.
Do you keep game inserts?
As a general rule, no. There's one Turfmaster that I just got. Is perfect. It fits perfectly to where it sits
the
up.
Horses snap in.
Sure. But as a general rule, no. Insert comes out, everything gets bagged.
Yeah. So for me, insert comes out unless there's some really fantastic. Oh my God, this insert.
Well, here's one exception. Lords of Waterdeep has a fantastic insert. As long as you keep it horizontal. If you turn that puppy vertical, which is how I store my games, bad stuff happens. So, and I know there are companies out there, I want to say Broken Token, Broken Meep, something.
Yeah, Broken Token, I think. They make the laser cut stuff.
Yeah, there are some really cool inserts out there, but for me, baggies I'm cool with.
So if you don't keep an insert, or you're going to acquire a game that doesn't have an insert, does that diminish the trade value?
Not in the least to me. If somebody's anal about it, at the beginning of our auctions, I'm going to start putting inserts may or may not be included.
Right.
If you have a question, inquire first. But even if...
And with both of us, chances are not included.
Right. But to me, it doesn't decrease the value in the least. Because if it's out of shrink... I expect it's, in good condition but played. I'm not getting it for the insert. The box and the components I want in good shape or disclosed.
So maybe you answer this when I say, are you a bagger or a plastic boxer?
The funny thing is when we first got in the hobby, well, not first, but when this started happening, I'm pointing at all the games behind me, we found deals for... I can't think of the plastic.
Oh, God.
Planos.
Thank you. Yeah, it went out of my head, too.
And when we had Memoir 44 and Battle Lore and all that, we had the big, 2 foot, or 1.5 foot wide by 2 foot tall by a foot deep
drawers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we have about a dozen of those still. And we have about a case and a half of Planos. And we found we really don't like them. We prefer baggies.
Yeah.
The reason being... We have a bunch of these containers
little
from
glass.
IKEA, which are little glass.
They're votive candle holders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have, I don't know, 2 dozen of these.
Same here.
And we also use the little silicone
Cupcake.
muffin or cupcake holders, which are fantastic.
Yes. If they can't hold a muffin, then please let them hold game parts.
Right. And so to me, this is far more easy to
Pour
get
the
out
stuff right in, yeah.
and then pour it right back into the Ziploc.
I'm a bagger.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's only 2 games I have boxes in.
Go ahead.
Castles of Burgundy.
Okay, we did, but we've gone to bags.
Cool. And Trajan. Both Felds for whatever reason.
There is one exception to that rule, and that's Antiquity.
Oh, yeah.
Antiquity has approximately 6 billion little chits.
Correct.
So that's the exception to the rule that has planos. Plus, the box is huge, so it has room for 2 planos in it.
Expansions. One game, one box? Or do you keep expansions in their boxes? Me? If it fits in the box, it's going in the box. Punt on the expansion box.
I half agree with that. If the space is becoming a serious premium, if we've opened the expansion, because sometimes you get it and you just haven't gotten around to it, in that case, then it stays in shrink until we play it. Once we play it, though, if it fits in the base game box, or whichever box is bigger, I should say, which more often than not is the base game, but not always. Whichever box is bigger, the game goes into that. The expansion, if it's modular and you see yourself not playing with the expansion all the time, it gets bagged separately. Like, for instance, in 1830, in Mayfair's edition, they have a ton of different variants and everything.
Right.
Those variants get bagged separately.
Yeah.
But if it's something that I know is going to be included in the game, for instance, Village Inn or Village Port, then that all gets bagged together.
Okay.
Where we differ, though, is on the expansion box. No way am I throwing that away.
Oh, yeah.
I have a closet in the spare bedroom, and that is purely for resale. If it's a game...
Okay, well, that was my next follow-up question is how does the one game, one box mantra affect resale?
The reason I keep expansion boxes is some people would prefer to have the expansion box and would pay more if you had the expansion box to go with it, even if everything's contained in the base game. And so, I'm not all about price gouging. I'm not doing anything like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, hey, maybe they would bid if it had the expansion box, whereas they wouldn't bid in a BGG auction. And so for that reason, now if it's a game I'm sure is just never going away and it has an expansion, then I might consider getting rid of the box. Here's the kicker.
Okay.
There is a geek list, a spare parts geek list on BGG where people ask for all kinds of oddball things. I think we still do, a box for the expansion for El Grande, for the original expansion that came separate. I offered it up on the spare parts. Does anybody want the empty box? You pay the shipping, but you can just have it. Just to kind of be a team player type thing. And so if instead of just throwing it away, maybe look at that geek list and offer it up to, be a good Samaritan. It's no harm off you. You throw it in a shipping container, whatever, UPS or Postal Service flat rate, and they pay for it. If they're willing to pay for it, good on them.
I'm just like an anti-hoarder, so
I'm trying to get there.
I don't need the box.
I'm trying to get there.
And if you don't want the game because the expansion's in the box, well, cool. Somebody else will get it. So
fair enough.
Okay, here's a sentence. The only way to keep them perfect is to never use them.
That is a sentence. Confirmed.
Confirmed. So, let me answer it, and it'll give you the clue to what I mean. I expect to play my games, and I expect there to be occasional accidents or oopsies, and something might get soiled or damaged. And while that sucks, I'm not going to stroke out about it because I'm not OCD in real life.
You mean CDO?
CDO.
Right.
Sucks, usually the person will, hopefully it doesn't really happen very often, right?
Sure.
They'll acknowledge, oh, replace your game or whatever, right? Whatever.
Right. Well, it depends how bad.
Right. But, I mean, it's going to get used. There's going to be wear. There's going to be...
This comes from...
Where's that piece?
This comes from a guy who sleeves his cards. That I find ironic.
Well, that protects them. But, like, that protects the cards.
But it's going to get worn. So you're okay with that.
The sleeve will get worn.
No, I'm just saying, you're saying it's okay. Games are meant to be played.
I'm not saying...
Which I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, you can take precautions. You can't sleeve a board.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I see where you're
going.
You got
to use protection.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like,
I'm not...
how like, freaky are you about, hey, don't touch that with that finger?
Well, at the beginning of every game day, as you know, the first question I ask is, has anyone eaten potato chips?
That's right. We don't want you to have to wash your games.
Right. No, I'm kidding. It's an inside joke for those listeners that get it. Anyway, no, I'm not that anal. I ask people to be smart about
Absolutely.
it, but the gamers that we game with are respectful gamers. And if it were an expensive game and something got ruined, it depends on... I would never feel the need to ask you to replace a game. At the same time, I know you're the type of guy that if it got trashed, you spilt a beer on it, and it's just,
out comes the checkbook.
right, exactly. There is no game in my collection, no matter how valuable it is, whether it's Saturn or whether it's, our custom Civ, all the God's Playground, whatever. All these games are meant to be played. We do not own a game that is strictly a showpiece. Right. So with that said, take precautions. We have side tables that we use when we game. Mm-hmm. We have coasters. We ask people...
Sealed drinks.
Right. We ask people to, everyone's pretty smart, but just as a reminder...
We don't eat Cheetos. Cool.
I am a little CDO when it comes to my box facing.
It
must be facing to the right, and the back and the top of the box must match the right size.
What I don't understand is how you're sitting here when not all the games are perfectly even with the...
No, that's just gonna happen. Right. I'm not that bad. But no,
So let me ask you this. Last question. We just put the game away.
Yeah.
We got an extra baggie. What did we put away wrong?
Whatever. I don't care.
Cool.
Don't care.
Right on.
Yeah, that's fine. No.
I'm
not that nuts.
Just trying to plumb the depth of your insanity.
No, the funny thing is
my own.
I actually had no...
that happens all the time.
I had none of these until I met Amanda, and now I gotta have the boxes facing a certain way. The fronts and backs gotta match. It just I blame her. The end.
Thanks for your indulgence.
Yeah. All right. So I got one last thing for you.
Right.
I know it's running a little long, so we'll wind up or whatever. There's a geek list by a user on Board Game Geek called Old Man Merton.
Okay.
His geek
I can
list.
relate. Grandpa Merton.
His geek list is titled "Obscure Games That You Own and Love, and How Did You Find Them?"
Right.
I mean, after all, we're heavy cardboard, so we can't review a game till it's long out of print, anyways, according to some people, right?
Yeah.
I'll go first to give you time to think. Okay.
Okay.
I have a lot of somewhat obscure games. Not all that I love, because there are some that I haven't played yet, but that might fit that criteria. Namibia would be one. Stuff like that. How I find these is Geek Buddies on BGG. Back in the day would turn me on to games. Nowadays, I keep my ears up for stuff that sounds interesting and that somebody mentions. There's currently the High and Mighty Math Trade that it's mostly for Grail games. There's 3 copies of Saturn in this. There's a copy of God's Play. There's a copy of the Polish version of God's Play. My point is, you just explore is how I find out about it. So my one game that I think that's pretty obscure, and I got turned on to it by people saying that it's a really mean auction game, and I've talked about it many times on the podcast, and it's Neue Heimat, which it's now out of print. Apparently, the company has gone on or no longer exists, whatever the case. And I'm really, really glad I have it. It's a fantastic auction game. So have I stalled long enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Speaking of Neue Heimat, though, hey, Kleiker, if you're listening, I want my copy. Damn it. It's a killer game.
It really is.
Okay, so love, I don't know, man. Love might be a...
Or that you enjoy.
Yeah. The Kashgar, the...
Yeah. Oh, it's only in German, right?
Right. The Merchants of the Silk Road. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's only in German and everything. That's pretty obscure, and that's a pretty fun game. And I found out about it just by, like you said, exploring. Mm-hmm. Just clicking around.
Kind of going down
one
rabbit
click
holes.
goes to another.
Exactly.
Suddenly it's 90 minutes later, and yeah.
And you're not wearing pants anymore. That's so weird.
Oh, I am. Ado is not Yedo, but Ado is
Edio, right?
Right. It's by the Maltz brothers, who were 2/3 of the Rococo team with Matthias Kramer.
Okay.
That one's pretty cool and obscure. I don't really hear anything about that. And maybe City Tycoon. Have you? I have a German copy of that because I couldn't freaking find an American copy.
Chad's got one, not Paul Chad, but Chad.
Chad, right, yeah. And I thought that was pretty cool. It was interesting. A lot of ways, a little wonkage. So I think that one's kind of obscure. I don't know. Is it?
You and I have different levels. Well, you don't own that
but
many
I don't have roads and boats in Indonesia.
Sure. And
I'm going to have Great Zimbabwe. Is that obscure? I don't think it's obscure because people know about it.
Right.
And people know about roads and boats.
Right.
Okay, maybe it's not well owned.
Right.
I don't think it's obscure.
Okay, that's fair. Like Kashgar would be
obscure,
would be
and
a perfect
it's
one.
Only
no. I think that's a perfect example. That's cool.
Interesting
so
question.
I'm curious.
I want to go. I need to go see his geek list.
Yeah, it's not his geek list. It's hey, what do you people can add to it?
List.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I would ask that people go into the guild. Somebody start a thread on it. And I'm curious to go, see what people come up with. Because plus, that's a good way to find out about other obscure games.
That's one right there, Uruk.
Uruk too. Yeah, got this. In fact, Paul Chad went to Essen last year.
Brought it
back. Yeah, and I know they had copies at BGG.
I got mine there.
Stuff. Yep. So
through you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So a little fun, and on a fun note tonight.
Awesome. All right. Well, I hope our listeners and viewers have enjoyed our Change of Pace episode here in 26.
Good way to end the first season of Heavy Cardboard.
I think so, and I certainly hope so.
I had fun with it, and researching was fun.
It was indeed. So on the way out this evening, let's remind everybody one more time about Game Surplus, our fantastic sponsor. GameSurplus.com is their website. Check out their inventory. Every Friday they post a little blurb on there about what has newly arrived in their inventory, and they Velma and you talk. And
Velma gives us a heads up on Friday morning, Friday afternoon, what's coming in, what's restocked, or what's new. Mm-hmm. So if you follow us on Twitter, you'll be the first to know. And because a lot of these come in on limited quantities,
they get 5 copies of something you might want to know.
Right. So you can follow us on Twitter at Heavy Cardboard. Facebook, Heavy Cardboard. Our email is contact@heavycardboard.com, and our website, heavycardboard.com, and YouTube, Heavy Cardboard Veds. So check us out, contact us, leave us ratings, reviews, email us, talk to us. We want to interact with you guys. So, do we want to tell them what next episode is? Because, dude, I'm not going to be able to keep it in for 2 weeks.
Yes, you will. This will be fun watching him blow up until he gets...
it's going to be totally different for us. We haven't done one of these episodes yet.
It'll be very cool.
And hope you guys enjoy it. And until that, hopefully we hear from you. We'll catch you all in a couple weeks.
I'll pack this up. You get Gates of Loyang out.
Deal.
All right.
Cool. All right.
Later, man.
Later.